started. So first of all, I just want to say thank you and good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining our webinar on leadership development. My name is Sarah Lambertson, and I'm the National Technical Assistance Manager for New Entry Sustainable Farming Project. I'll be one of your hosts today, along with my colleague, Brianna Bowman. And our presenters are Robbie Hertneky of Antioch University New England and Kelly Owensby of Transplanting Traditions Community Farm. Just a very quick little technical overview. Up above your screen, you'll see a green bar. If you hover over that menu bar, it allows you to go back to a small screen, view the participant list, reconnect your audio if you're having trouble, as well as find the chat window. Since we have so many people on the webinar, we're going to keep everyone muted throughout, except for the presenters. If you have questions, you can type them into the chat window. Please type them to everyone so that we, all the presenters and hosts are able to see them and figure out who best to answer it. We'll take all questions at the end of the webinar, so you can feel free to type them throughout, but we'll address them all at the end. After the webinar, we will send you a recording as well as any resources that are mentioned and a link for a feedback, and we really appreciate any feedback that you have on the webinar. So just a brief little bit about New Entry. We were founded in 1998. We are based in Massachusetts. We've got on-the-ground programming here in Massachusetts with farmer training and food access work. We've got incubator sites as well as a food hub and a CSA and our farmland matching program. So that's our local programs on the ground, as well as some national work, which is the work that we're presenting this through today. We do working with organizations starting Incubator Farms, which is the work Brianna works on, and I work with organizations interested in applying for the Community Food Projects Grant Program or applicants or grantees of the program. For the Community Food Projects Grant Program, we offer one-on-one support to applicants and grantees, and this ranges everywhere from understanding the grants.gov process and sort of navigating the federal grant process to project development, to grant management support, and anything else that applicants or grantees need. You can take a look at our website and see the resources and documents we have specific to community food projects, applicants, and grantees. We have several past webinars, and this webinar will be posted there as well afterwards. If you have any questions, you can email me directly. My email address is right there. And I will hand it over to Bree now to talk about our NIFTY program.
Hi everyone, again my name is Brianna Bowman. I'm the National Technical Assistance Coordinator and run the National Incubator Farm Training Initiative, which is one of the co-hosts of this webinar. So the National Incubator Farm Training Initiative, or NIFTY, was founded in 2012 in response to an increase in requests for technical assistance from New Entry about the work of our incubator farm. So NIFTY now provides one-on-one consulting, resources, and events in support of the professional development of incubator farm project staff nationwide. I want to give you just a brief overview of the ways that you can connect with NIFTY. And again, I realize there may be many people on this call who don't run incubator farms, but if it's ever something you're considering or if that is the nature of your work, we would really love to connect with you. So we run a technical assistance network with 4 technical assistance providers that provide free one-on-one consulting. We run a national listserv and host community of practice events, including both national and regional trainings. This year, our National Field School, which is an opportunity for the staff of incubator farm projects across the country to connect and learn, is happening October 25th through 27th in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And if you're subscribed to the Incubator Farm listserv, you'll be notified as soon as registration opens for that. I want to highlight quickly also opportunities to connect with NIFTY for learning online. So webinar series, such as the one we're attending now, are all readily available online after they're presented. And then we also host a resource library with over 250 resources related to incubator farm project design and implementation. Lastly, I'd like to highlight that NIFTY as a regional network has grown to the point where it made too much sense to regionalize, so we did. Right now we work with 5 regional conveners across the country to guide regional communities of incubator farm projects. We host quarterly calls, regional listservs, and we'll be hosting 1 event per year in region. So if you're interested in becoming connected with your regional network, we encourage you to do so, and you can do that by being in touch with me. So that's the end of my intro, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Robbie, who will get us started. Robbie, I'll let you know when you're ready to go. All right, you should be good.
Great. Can you hear me? Are we doing okay there?
Yep, we can hear you.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brianna and Sarah. I'm delighted to be here with you all today to explore leadership and leadership development. You work with a variety of stakeholders, nonprofit board members, staff, clients, program leaders, leaders in training, community members, farmers, and more in challenging environments with scarce resources. My intention is that this webinar be useful, relevant, and applicable as you engage in the important work you do strengthening your communities and sustainable food systems. I'll be providing conceptual underpinnings to set Kelly up as she speaks about her work with Transplanting Traditions Community Farm in North Carolina. So as we go through, think of your leadership and that of those around you and the needs of your organizations and communities. You may want to look at multiple levels of leadership, individual, group, organizational, or whatever is relevant for you. I'm organizing this part of the webinar of moving from the general to the specific. So beginning with speaking broadly about the idea of leadership, leadership in general and yours in particular. What it is, what we think it is, what's going on in the background, the mental models and assumptions that we're all holding. Then we'll move to a particular conceptual model and its application. Adaptive leadership in complex circumstances is a theory that I find extremely appropriate and useful and that resonates with what I experience. Then we'll move to leadership in teams. We all work in teams, and effective teamwork is critical to the success of our efforts. So we'll look at group stage development and appropriate leadership styles for each stage, and conclude with how to take care of yourself and others as you do this difficult work. At the end of each section, I'll offer questions for your consideration to help put this into practice. So let's begin. The field of leadership is often criticized for not having a single agreed upon by all definition. There is agreement, however, in that leadership involves influence, groups of people working towards a common goal. And we all hold mental models and expectations of leaders and leadership. These mental models are images, assumptions, stories we carry around in our minds of ourselves, others, institutions, every aspect of the world. It's how we believe the world works when we get out of bed in the morning, and it determines what we see and hear. So we all have mental models of leadership. What do we think it is? What does it look like? What do leaders look like? How do they act? Who can be leaders in the first place? And these models come from many sources, from our families, from our culture, from our experience. We may think of leadership as residing in an individual person, a person with a title, a position, a formal leader in the front of the room, the person, traditionally a man, with the answers, an authority figure, or a heroic leader. We may think of leadership as residing in a group, a community, or a system, being collaborative and shared. We may think of it as a dynamic process between leaders and followers, whereby they both learn from and influence one another. We may think of leadership as being practiced by particular people imbued with integrity. Or leadership may be called something else. It may be called teacher or parent. You can see that these assumptions that we carry, if they remain unexamined or below the surface, we can all be working from a different model and assumption of what leadership is. So the same behavior we may have different reactions to. If someone is directive in standing with authority in the front of the room, directing the group, that might be seen as very strong leadership. By others, it might be seen as being authoritative and not collaborative. The same could be said if someone is more quietly working within a group for it to be effective. Some people might think of that as strong and effective leadership. Some might see it as weakness. So for your consideration, what does leadership look like for you? Who can be leaders? What do they do? How do they act? And how might different mental models of leadership play out in your organization? If you stop and think about your own models and assumptions, and then ask someone or someone's what their idea of leadership looks like and what they expect from their leaders, how are your models similar and how are they different from one another? And think about how this might affect your working together. So let's look at a particular concept of leadership, that of adaptive leadership. This is the practice of mobilizing people to tackle tough challenges and thrive. It's specifically about change that enables the capacity to thrive. It's built on the past, it's about experimentation, relies on diversity, involves loss, and takes time and persistence. Heifetz and his colleagues at the Kennedy School say the most common cause of failure in leadership is produced by treating adaptive challenges as if they were technical problems. So let's look at that. Technical problems are those that can be solved using existing know-how. Think about a linear system where an application of expertise bringing about a prescribed solution can bring about the change that is needed. This does not require that people change in any way. And it's resolved through the application of expertise and through an organization's current structures, procedures, and ways of doing things. An example of a technical problem would be a local grocery store runs out of staple items. They place an order with their distributor. The weekly delivery arrives with these items. They are then priced and shelved. The problem is solved. A piece of machinery on the farm breaks down. A new piece of machinery is brought in. People learn how to use it, and it's up and running. It's a prescribed solution. People are not required to change. An adaptive challenge, however, does require change and learning. Think about it as a complex system. So these changes can only be addressed through changes in people's priorities, beliefs, habits, and loyalties. Think about how deeply seated those are. It's not just bringing in a new piece of machinery. It goes beyond applying expertise, systemic problems with no ready answers, and these are not quick fixes. They take time and attention. An example of an adaptive challenge would be low-income communities being unable to get reliable, affordable, dependable, fresh food. That's not just a distribution problem. It involves economic systems, the deeply held beliefs of who deserves what, underlying values of distribution of resources, these systemic challenges that require time and altering beliefs and behaviors as people learn how to change the system. The problem is when an adaptive challenge is treated as a technical problem, which is human nature, the tendency to avoid the difficult work in which one feels incompetent and keep towards a technical problem and an expert solution, which is where we can feel more more competent. And let me say a bit about loss. Adaptive challenges involve some sense of loss. And it's been said that people don't resist change, they resist loss. And those losses could be big or small. They could be a loss in status, in money, in a sense of identity or worth, in safety, and they often are avoided talking about. And if one can even recognize the loss and find a way to talk about it, that can often move the barriers to working through the adaptive challenge. So an example of an adaptive challenge being treated as a technical problem. Mergers and collaborations are excellent examples of those. So think about the merger of two nonprofits, and they may both serve the same population, have complementary programs and services, and the merger could be seen as an opportunity to be more efficient with limited resources without duplicating efforts. So these are two separate organizations, two separate organisms that have their own mission, values, histories, people, structures, procedures, ways of doing things. They may prioritize different things. One group may prioritize new technologies and bringing them in to do their work more efficiently. One group might prioritize relationships and the people who have been with them over time. So when you're merging these two groups, they need to learn how to create a new organization or a new organism. And that's tough work. And it requires that people think differently about themselves and their work and learn how to work differently. If that adaptive challenge is treated as a technical problem, so often these mergers or collaborations are seen as moving the pieces around on an organizational chart, or having people report differently, or tweaking financial systems. And it is so much more than that, and that is why so many mergers and collaborations are ineffective and fall apart. So for you to think about, can you think about an example of an adaptive challenge being treated as a technical problem in your world? One thing to note is that adaptive challenges are often those that we keep trying to solve. They're those chronic challenges that just keep coming up. So you may try to throw more money at it, or more resources, or more people, or something, and it just keeps coming up. That those technical solutions are not working to the adaptive challenge. So think about, is there something that just keeps coming around in your organization or in your world? And in those adaptive challenges, what might be potential loss or losses involved? So let's move to the team level. Let's talk about leadership in teams. We all work in teams as employees in organizations, farmers on an incubator plot, members of food policy councils, family members. And to be effective, it's helpful to understand stages of group development and corresponding appropriate leadership styles. Group stage development is not a linear process. You don't start at square one, end, and you're done. For as group membership changes, as people come and go, new members come into the group. When the membership changes, it is a new group and is starting over. There may be talents and skills, but as a group, they are starting over again and may fold back to earlier stages of development. This folding back can also happen if the work of the group changes along the way. And team leadership requires that one be flexible and adapt to the differing circumstances and situations of the group. So have the ability to assess a stage of development and a flexible style to respond. And also please be aware that the leadership of the group does not have to reside in the formal leader. That leadership can be anywhere in the group. So for example, anyone could provide encouragement or ask a clarifying question. So let's look at, this is Ken Blanchard's model of situational leadership. You may be familiar with Ken's work through the 1 Minute Manager book series. And this model will look at stages of development. It starts from the bottom right and works its way around. So S1, 2, 3, and 4 are stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 of group stage development. And the pathway is the appropriate leadership style for each stage along the way. So let's walk through. Stage 1 of a group, the bottom right-hand corner, is orientation. This is when the group is coming together and forming the sniffing out stage. So people are feeling some anxiety where they fit in with the group, wondering what's expected of them. They have some eagerness and some high expectations for the group, and they're looking to find a place to establish themselves. And at this stage of development, the group is depending upon authority as it is just forming. So the appropriate leadership style of directing is one of high direction. Directive behaviors are those that address the task of the group, getting the job done. So in the first stages of the group, the leadership would be looking to things such as setting the agenda, setting time limits, establishing goals, proposing tasks, defining a problem, pulling together related ideas, those things that are, again, concentrating on the work of the group, getting it started. Then, as the group moves into stage 2, which is dissatisfaction, this is when the group is feeling frustrated, maybe anger around the goals or the tasks or the action plans, maybe feeling a discrepancy between what they had hoped the group would be and reality, feeling incompetence or confusion, and there may be competition for power or attention. And at this time, the leadership switches into a coaching mode. So the high directive behaviors continue of focusing on getting the job done. But this is also where the leader needs to attend towards the maintenance of the group, how the group is functioning. Those are the supportive behaviors. So these are things working to develop and maintain the group's harmony and cohesiveness. So this would be recognizing and listening to members of the group, encouraging participation, attending to relationship building, paying attention to conflict management, communication, encouraging, those things that are now attending to the people and the people of the group as well as the work of the group. We've all been in groups in dissatisfaction. Many groups fall apart at this stage, but if the leadership can help to move them through, they move to stage 3, one of resolution. And here the dissatisfaction of the group is decreasing as there is a development of harmony and trust and support and respect between the group members. They're developing self-esteem and confidence in their work as they share responsibility and control. So here, in a supporting manner, the leader can move to a low directive style. So as the group is able to attend to the tasks of the group more effectively, the leader can let those behaviors diminish, but still staying in a highly supportive mode of attending to the people and how the group is functioning. And then as the group moves into stage 4 of production, this is when they're working collaboratively and feeling the strength of the team, showing accomplishment in their work, feeling positive and sharing leadership. This is where the leadership style of delegating is more appropriate, of still being present, but with low directive and low supportive behaviors. So you can see how if a leader only has one style or does not understand the group development stages, if their style is one of high direction, of focusing on getting the job done in a strong manner without attending to the people, that would be effective at certain times and not at others. And and that being able to support the people in the group is so important to get them through those difficulties of the dissatisfaction stage too. So when you're looking at your group or another group, some things for you to observe: communication and participation. Who talks to whom? Who is left out? Who talks more often? How are groups making their decisions? Is it through majority rule, consensus, lack of response? How are they handling conflict, which is inevitable and necessary? Is it through avoidance or compromise or competition? Where does the leadership reside in the group? Is it in a particular formal leader? Are different members taking it on? Who is influencing whom? And is the group clear about what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, and their roles of who does what? Group norms are ground rules. The ground rules of what is appropriate or inappropriate behavior. Are those explicit and understood? Are people within the group adhering to the same group norms? How are problems solved? And what is the feeling or tone of the group? How pleasant is it? For you to think about. Think about a team you're a member of. Using the model of group stage development and what to observe in groups, what stage of development would you say it is in? And what style of leadership is being used? And is it the appropriate style? And what recommendations might you make for a more effective leadership of the team? And again, remember that that leadership does not have to reside in a single person. And through all of this, it's important to remember to take care of yourself during doing this difficult work. And that's taking care of yourself both physically and emotional. You can't be effective if you sacrifice yourself to the cause. And some things to keep in mind. Give yourself permission to be both optimistic and realistic, to hold the healthy tension to keep optimism from swinging to denial and realism to cynicism. Find sanctuaries, places where you can reflect, renew, and regain perspective. Reach out to confidants, not someone within your organization. Those people within your organization with whom you can bond to move things forward and get your work done, those are allies. Confidants are outside of your organization. There are people who care more about you than the issue. So this would be someone with whom you can debrief and use as a sounding board. And don't lose yourself in your role. Maintain a sense of yourself as a person distinct from yourself in the role of your professional work. For your consideration, how do you take care of yourself? What restores you? What other strategies might you try? And how can you help others in your organization care for themselves? So I hope this is useful and resonates as you think about the underlying mental models and assumptions to your concept of leadership. Use the lens of adaptive leadership to see around you where adaptive challenges may be treated as technical problems. Look at your teams and their stage of development and corresponding leadership style, and how you care for yourself and others in your work. I'll turn it over to Kelly now, and we'll take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie. And Kelly, you should be all set.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Let's see, is that working? Yeah, okay. All right, so hello everyone. Thank you, Robbie. My name is Kelly Owensby, and I'm the project director at Transplanting Traditions Community Farm. We work with refugee families from Burma. We're on a 5-acre farm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We're in the middle of expanding to 8 acres, which is really exciting. We've been doing that this summer. We operate an 105-member CSA, and we have farmers at our local farmers markets here in Chapel Hill. This year we'll bring in about $95,000 in sales to our farmers, and our staff is 2 full-time, 1 part-time. We use a translator, and then we have 4 managers that we pay as staff. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today is our farmer manager program. So as I said, we're on a 5-acre site. We've got 32 families, all from Burma. Everyone has individual plots on the farm, but the upkeep of the farm space is done communally. So we have 4 managers who lead crews of farmers to take care of that communal farm space and to deal with the upkeep of that. Our 4 crews are landscaping, cleaning and caring for the shared vegetable processing space, and management of transplants in the greenhouse. And so the objectives, are really just to increase farmer involvement in the management of the farm, increase investment in the farm space, and to train our farmer managers in technical and leadership skills. Some examples of technical skills are things like seed germination and transplant care in the greenhouse, keeping track of supply costs to individual farmers through our general store, which is how we sell a lot of our supplies to farmers, so keeping track of all of that, and then just infrastructure, maintenance, and repair on the farm. So that's all done by our farmer managers. This is the 2nd year of the program. It came about because farmers were expressing the need for there to be a more equitable structure around shared communal duties. We were having a lot of our more core farmers doing a lot more of the lion's share of upkeep of the farm. And so we and them wanted to find a way in which to make it more formalized and distribute it more equitably. It also has been really helpful for us as staff because we were doing a lot of this work ourselves. And then the goal for 2017 is to have a farmer-managed structure in place that could operate with minimal outside staff oversight. And we're working on starting a farmer decision-making committee. So we really want to have Transplanting Traditions have this sort of core structure that is operated from a very grassroots level by the farmers. Okay, so this is kind of how the structure works. Each of our farm families chooses a slot on a different crew, and they're required to contribute 2 hours a month towards the duties of that crew. So I told you earlier a little bit about the different crews: landscaping, greenhouse management, supplies, etc. And then each of the 4 farmer managers oversees and coordinates their own crew of farmers. So that's part of their duties as a manager, is that oversight of that crew. Our families don't pay to participate at the farm, but their work on a crew is basically their requirement for participation at the farm. And so we talk to them about that quite a bit. So the structure for the managers. Managers are nominated by the farmers, and then a vote takes place to choose the managers. We also, of course, meet with those managers to discuss what their role as a manager would look like and if they're even willing to be a manager. And then that vote just decides which of the managers that were nominated will be chosen. So it's pretty simple. The managers and farmers attend a winter training on the structure of this system, as well as what qualities make a good manager or what qualities make a good crew member. So we basically do a two-part training just around how everything functions in the system, everything from the logistical details of choosing a crew and the amount of hours a month you're going to do, to some of the more information about what to expect from your manager, what a manager can expect from a crew member, and some of the qualities that both crew members and managers should be trying to emulate. Let's see. And then we spent some time over the winter of 2014 gathering information from all of our farmers as well as from community leaders on kind of what they wanted to see in a kind of management structure, what good qualities of leaders and crew members they would want to see. So that's kind of what shaped the structure of everything. The structure for the managers, just some details, kind of logistical details are, for us, we give each manager a contract of 224 hours for the 8-month season, which is 7 hours a week. Hopefully I did my math right there. The managers have the flexibility to work more or less each week as needed, but they have this kind of maximum contract. And we work with them, kind of help them keep track of where they're at each month on that contract. Right now, managers are paid $12 an hour. Returning managers are given raises. We're hoping to find funding to be able to increase that pay for next year. So for us, the line item budget for this program is $10,752, and it's an amazing program for us. Okay, this is a little
Kelly, can I interject real quickly just for a second?
Yeah.
I made a technical whoopsie, and I accidentally made Stephanie Logston the host. So Stephanie, can you just chat me in the chat box so we can get that sorted out? Thank you. Sorry, Kelly.
That's okay.
Okay, you're good. Thank you.
Does that mean start going again?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so here's the breakdown of the crews, just some of the details. Hopefully no one glazes over here. So the 4 crews, each overseen by 1 farmer manager. So we've got the greenhouse crew, the 1 manager, 12 families work on this crew. And just to explain a little bit more about our greenhouse, you know, families or farmers can start their own seeds in the greenhouse, but for the most part, our greenhouse crew and managers start transplants and then sell them back to farmers at cost. So that's kind of something that's unique that we do, but it works really well for us. We have 2 landscaping crews, each have a manager, so we have 2 managers for our landscaping crew, and they each have 8 families on their crew. And then the general store processing shed supplies manager does a lot of kind of upkeep cleaning, but also manages that general store, which we basically buy bulk supplies in bulk, and then we sell them back to farmers at cost. So she keeps track of all of those sales and basically does all of that selling in that store. So there's quite a lot that happens in that store. So greenhouse crew manager responsibilities. This is just kind of just to break it down with some examples. So this is what our manager kind of does each week. They make a plan with staff for seeding trays, how many, how long will it take. They contact their crew members in order to have them sign up for days to help with feeding and for watering, help out with that. They troubleshoot with crew members if they don't show up for seeding days when they said they will. They maintain a sign-in sheet for crew members, and they maintain a time sheet of their own hours too. So that's just kind of very basically kind of what they do. So this is just interesting to me. It's the qualities or skills to be a good farmer manager that were collected from interviews that we did with our farmers and with community leaders. So just, I really like a lot of these, trying to find the good in others and in situations, having self-confidence, seeking to learn and attend trainings, problem-solving skills, time management skills, which is something we work with a lot with our managers. It's a little bit of a struggle, but planning and scheduling, but they've, in their second year, have learned a lot and are doing really well with it. Challenging oneself, practicing new skills, fulfilling their responsibilities, perseverance, experience and interest, communication skills, being a people person, having full knowledge about the job. So we we basically use a lot of these when we shape our leadership trainings in the winter. We also use them to give direction to our farmers because, they're in charge of nominating who should become a good manager. So we spend some time in the winter talking about all of this so that those nominations have a little bit of direction. And then this is what crew members should not be. Be selfish, be unfair, show favoritism, abuse the power given to them, be a difficult leader and be hard on their crew members, look down on others, have bad communication, talk a lot but do nothing, reject suggestions or feedback. So again, these were really useful for us and I think are great qualities that a crew manager should not have and that a leader should not have. And so this is a big part of what we talk about. So the results of this farmer manager program have been really incredible for us. We really didn't know where it was going to go. Last year was our first year. We're in the middle of the second year of it. But it's, the farm is definitely operating with more organization, more efficiency than ever before. The structure is becoming culturally suited to the needs of the farmers. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. Because all of our farmers are from Burma, there's just a lot of cultural differences, and the way things are just slowly changing in little ways has been really great to see, and that's really directed by our managers. Farmer managers speak our farmers' languages, so they're tuned into the dynamics of the community. Their leadership style is much better suited to the farm. They provide crucial feedback to us as staff and are very much in an advisory role. In so many ways. I consult with our managers constantly on issues that we're having or new programs that we're trying to jumpstart. So they've definitely reported a lot about the new skills that they've learned and how it's very satisfying to be a leader. There's a lot of pride in the positions that they have. We've had some issues with kind of the tragedy of the commons and this big common space and being able to take care of it as a community. So that's decreased a lot, and I think that has to do with the 4 different crews. People are divided into those crews. They have clear roles and responsibilities, and there's someone who's, following up with them about what they need to be doing. Also, interestingly, we've had conflict among our farmers has decreased. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I think, again, it's just kind of being able to divide the farm up into smaller sections and have people have clear roles and just have someone who is a manager that's overseeing things and is able to probably address and help troubleshoot some conflicts as well as have conflicts avoided. And then it's really decreased our staff duties around management of the farm. And that's been really great. This I just want to read. It's a little bit long, but this is from one of our managers and her feedback about what it's like to be a crew manager, how it impacts her life, and then really just, I think these are incredible. Some of these things that she said are really incredible about how to be a good leader. She talks about her responsibility kind of in the first section and how her time is precious. That's something we talk to our managers a lot, making sure that they're doing a good job of recording their hours and that all the time that they spend is part of their duties, and this whole idea of time being the precious part of what they do. She takes a lot of pride in the area. The area belongs to the community. She wants to keep the space clean and beautiful. But some of my favorite things are, like one of the last ones, crew members learn from me, but I also slowly learn from them. For example, how to keep the bamboo house looking nice. When people come together, they bring different knowledge, mowing the grass. So she's kind of talking about how important it is to be a collaborative leader. She also talks about how she has a lot of special techniques to get her crew to cooperate peacefully and honestly, and she talks with them kindly. She gives a lot of compliments. She says, "Oh, this looks so nice. I've never seen anyone do this job so well." So her crew works really well together for that reason. And so this feedback that we get is really interesting, and it's just really helpful for the program. And our managers just do a really good job. Okay, so this is the last thing I'm just going to talk about a little bit is some of the lessons that we have learned going about this program. one thing is that, you have to really let go of the outcome of a project or activity being done exactly as you would do it. And that can be really hard, but has been a great lesson for us. Letting managers make mistakes and letting them learn from them. So we've definitely had instances where a manager wants to do something a certain way, and I have a pretty good feeling it's not going to work out for some reason, but I just go ahead and let them try it, and sometimes there is a failure and sometimes there's not, and something really great is learned from that. So just letting them have that, having that space to do that has been really important. Allowing managers to experiment with new systems or ways of doing things kind of follows along with letting them make mistakes. And as I said, often the result is improved. Having mutual respect. So we definitely don't operate very hierarchically at Transplanting Traditions, and I would definitely say that our managers, we collaborate with them on a very equal playing ground, and I definitely value their experience and their work with the farm as much as I do any of my other colleagues. We give a lot of positive feedback, very constructive. We do give some negative feedback. We make sure it's very constructive, and we try to come about it in the best way possible. So often we just have a conversation with a manager that allows them to reflect and come up with a solution on their own, and that's worked really well. And let's see what else. The feedback from farmer managers has led to some really great changes at the farm. We've embraced a shared method of directing decision-making and being able to follow through on farmer manager suggestions and being open to new and different ways of doing things. So by that, I just mean that a lot of times farmer managers will say, hey, can you do X, Y, or Z? It would really help me. I need this support. And so we, even though I can be really busy, really try to follow through on a lot of that and just be there in a support role. We do provide a fair amount of assistance and support to managers if they need it, just technical support or troubleshooting around maybe a crew member that they're having problems with, or just anything that they kind of are looking for, any kinds of trainings or skills that they kind of need to be able to do a better job. So we provide that as staff, and we meet with them almost every week. We also meet with our managers as a group on a monthly basis. So that's it.
Great. Thank you so much, both to Kelly and Robbie. It's really great to hear both sort of the theoretical perspective from Robbie and then really some sort of like nitty-gritty details from Kelly. So hopefully everyone here enjoyed that. We'd love to take some questions now. So if you have questions, please use the chat window. And if you can type them to everyone, that is best, so that everyone will be able to see them. But if you chat to me as well, I can make sure that they get addressed. We had one question about will notes be available. We will be sending out a recording of the webinar. I'm not sure that there'll be notes, but if you have specific questions, Rebecca, please feel free to let us know. So we're looking for a definition of an incubator farm. Bree, do you want to handle that one, or do you want me to do that one?
I can do it. So incubator farms vary in structure widely, but we do have a common definition that we use. So the incubator farm is a land-based multi-grower project that provides training and technical assistance to new and aspiring farmers. So to give a little more texture to that, basically, incubator farms are either part of an organization or a standalone organization that provide beginning farmer training geared towards the fostering of independent small farm businesses. Typically, they revolve around shared infrastructure and equipment and allow each of their farmers a small parcel of land upon which they can farm, and really it serves as kind of a launch pad for their farm business. Usually, incubator farms work with people for right around 3 years is the average. And as I mentioned, there is a pretty wide degree of variation between how much training and technical assistance Incubator Farms provide, but some are very hands-on, providing a lot of production training, business planning training, marketing training. Then there are some incubators that just provide land and shared infrastructure and equipment. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to ask.
All right, Kelly, we've got a couple of questions for you. If you could describe the manager nomination process, as well as the biggest challenges you've had with your system, and then whether or not this manager model was the original model when the farm began.
Okay, so the manager nomination process, basically in our winter trainings, we do have a training all about what the structure is going to be like, and then I think more importantly, what kind of qualities we're looking for in a manager. And as I said before, those qualities were collected from the farmers themselves. And then we just allow everyone to nominate anyone that they feel like would be a good manager. So a fellow farmer who is participating at the farm, and they just write their name and drop it in a box. And we collect all those names, talk to those nominated farmers about whether they would be willing to be a manager, and kind of sit down with them and explain that whole process. And then everybody votes. So that's as simple as we've made it. And let's see, the biggest challenges. I think that the biggest challenges, last year we had more challenges than this year. This year's running really smoothly. But we've had to do some trainings with our managers, and so kind of figuring out what those are. So some of our managers have struggled with some, basic math around adding up the hours of their crew members. So doing a training around that. Or some of our managers the first year were a little bit uncomfortable in being a manager, and, they kind of had just gone from being a farmer, and they still farm at Transplanting Traditions, but they also, have these management duties as well, but wondering if they were going to be respected by their crew members. So we did a lot of troubleshooting around that, and I think that the one thing that has helped with that is that we do a lot to legitimize these managers. We're a staff at the farm twice a week. We're out there quite a bit, and we do workshops and meetings, and we have done a lot to say, we refer to the managers, we show them as a role of respect and treat them like staff in front of everybody, so that they're given as much legitimacy as anyone as a part of our staff. And I think that that's helped a lot. But in the beginning, a lot of our managers felt really uncomfortable managing a crew of their fellow farmers. But we've just kind of worked that out through trainings and through meetings. We have meetings with each manager and their crew members that we facilitate along with that manager. We usually do that about 2 or 3 times a season. So I think that helps. And then the farmer manager model was not the original model. No, we started in 2010, and we started this program last year. 2015 was our first year. So we did not have it for the first part of the program.
Great, thank you. This next question, Robbie, is for you. What are the ways that a team member can be an adaptive leader if when the official leader is not providing the appropriate leadership style given the stage of development for that team?
Yes, great, thank you. And this happens so often. A couple of things. If the formal leader is more directive than supportive, and supportive behaviors are what are being needed, a group member can do things such as ask questions, or we haven't heard from so-and-so today, I would be curious what he or she has to say. So helping other people participate, encouraging or thanking people for their suggestions or their contributions. So thank you, Joan, I wouldn't have thought of that, and I can see how that would be very useful in this situation. So it is participating in the group deliberatively to bring about what is not there. If the formal leader is more supportive than directive, as a group member, when the group comes together, you may be able to ask, do we have an agenda or a goal for this meet? What are we looking to accomplish in our time together? Is asking questions if there are facts or information that is needed. So again, participating in the manner of what a formal leader could do or would be appropriate to do. Another thing, and this depends on your circumstances, is having a conversation with the formal leader of you are very skilled in bringing the group to consensus and keeping the group on task. Would it be helpful if I played a role in attending to the functioning of the group? So depending upon how explicit you could be with that person, of your taking on a particular role, that's another way of doing it.
Great, thank you. Kelly, we've got a couple of questions for you. Wondering whether farmers and families live on site, and if you have a format or plan for your farmer decision-making committee, and how you cover the recurrent costs of paying the farmer managers.
Yeah, our farmers do not live on site. They live pretty close, though. No one lives on site. We don't have a format or plan for our farmer decision-making committee yet. We are just actually starting to do meetings with with groups of farmers on what they would want that structure to look like. So we're kind of starting there actually next week. So we don't have that yet. The costs, we are a nonprofit, so at this point we use grant funds and fundraising to pay for our managers. So we have been talking about if Transplanting Traditions was not able to find funds for that, and if it was just operating kind of just at its core without a lot of our other programs, without a lot of staff oversight, with at the minimum, our farmer manager program to be able to take care of and manage the crews. It's not a lot of money, and we figured that we could start, and this is actually something we're going to ask next week, a lot of our participants, what they would be willing to pay on a monthly basis to participate on the farm, and if that would be able to cover those costs of management. So that's something that we're experimenting with, but at this point we are grant funded and mostly grant funded and donor funded.
Great, thank you. So I don't see any other questions coming in. If anyone has one they want to send along quickly, we can answer maybe one more, but if we don't see any more, we may close out here. Just pause a moment. All right, well, I don't see any more coming in, so I want to give a big thank you to Robbie and Kelly for your expertise today, and thank you to all of you for participating and joining the webinar, and I hope that you have found this valuable. We will be sending a recording of the webinar to all of you afterwards, so in case you joined late or know someone else who would be interested, and we will send contact information in that email. And we'll also be sending out a feedback survey. If you don't mind providing feedback, we really appreciate it. It helps us give a sense of doing future webinars, content for that, and as well as what we can work on here. So I really appreciate all of your time today and look forward to working with you in the future.